Thank you. And thank you, Lascan Corla. And first of all, can I thank the Labour Party for bringing forward this motion regarding the fact that workers in the community and voluntary sector have not had a pay rise for 14 years. 14 years, when you say it quickly, sort of slips off the tongue, but that's a very long time. As somebody said at yesterday's briefing on the issue, they are tired. They are tired asking for equity, for justice, and for a bit of respect, and for an acknowledgement that their work matters. And all of us in this chamber, and indeed throughout the country, we all know how much their work matters. So many services that so many people rely on right throughout this country, whether it's rural, urban, towns, villages, inner cities, in family resource centres, in drug services, in our TUS, RSS, CE schemes, in youth services, leader companies, in services for children, for adults, for older people, in education services. It's a very long list. I've only mentioned some of the areas. But these are the kind of services that form, if you like, a type of safety net in society. The kind of service that all of us, either as individuals or family members, will require at some point in our lives. These services are organised and run by voluntary boards, volunteers who give their time, their commitment and their energy in trying to provide, in conjunction with the state, local services to support their local communities. All of us, on a regular basis, are approached by groups in our constituency who want to set up these kind of services to serve their local community. Only the day before yesterday, I was approached by some people in Manorhamilton who are looking to set up a family resource centre in North Leitrim. That's the kind of service that supports families. But this isn't coming from the state. This is coming from the local community, from people who are willing to give their energy, their time, their commitment and fundraise and work with the state agencies to set up this vitally necessary service that will support their local community. And that's what's really important here, because the service is one thing, but the workers, those who deliver those services, have to be supported and resourced, as they should be. But I just wonder sometimes, is it because maybe they're run by volunteers and by voluntary boards, which doesn't cost the state, it's free, there's no extra cost. Is that part of the reason, maybe, that these services are not valued the way they should be? Because if that's the case, then it's unjust and it's discriminatory. I spoke to these workers yesterday, but I've spoken to representatives in my office many times, and I've met in Leinster House on many occasions, representatives particularly from Section 39 workers, and all of them feel passed from Billy to Jack. They know their salary and hours are set by government. Their employer has no say in this. Yet government say they have no responsibility for wage increases. No increases since 2008. One person said yesterday, and I thought it was the best description ever, they said they feel like nobody's child. And the recent sleight of hand, and that's all I can call it, and it gives me no joy to call it that, the 100 million that we've all been told about, the Taoiseach, the Taoiseach, and here last night in the Chamber Minister, you mentioned it, this 100 million. Now, I think we need clarity here. It's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that this money is largely to meet extra costs due to skyrocketing inflation, increased energy costs, etc. All agencies and organisations need extra resources just to finance their increased day-to-day spending. This money has not, again, as far as I know, been specifically earmarked for an increase in workers' pay for the Section 39, Section 56, Section 10 workers, etc. And to hear 3 times in the last week from the most senior of politicians that this money is somehow meant to deal with the issue. To hear that when we know it won't bridge the gap, then it's no wonder workers who have waited patiently react with anger and disbelief. The way forward is straightforward. The government must engage with the unions who represent the workers and agree a mechanism and a way forward which will guarantee that these workers receive their long overdue pay increases. We're all aware that the directive on collective agreements has to be implemented. Perhaps this would be an excellent way to start implementing that piece of legislation. But crucially, Minister, any agreement cannot and must not threaten in any way the viability of these services. We must not pit workers against service users under any circumstances, because these services fill the gaps left by the state. They are the essential services, and in many cases, they are often a lifeline for those on the margins. But as I said earlier, not only those. All of us, at some point in our lives, ourselves or our families, will use these services because they are for all of society. Minister, the government has consistently refused to accept any responsibility for pay and conditions in this sector. They say the state is not the employer. They're washing their hands, and that means for these workers they've had the worst of both worlds. When the government reduced pay in 2008 during the crash, they saw their pay reduced, so they paid a price. But when it came to pay increases, the government is basically saying, you can take the pain. In fact, we will see to it that you take the pain. But where there is gain, well, you're not in line. Minister, that's just wrong. Finally, can I say, staff retention is a huge issue, with up to 1/3 of staff leaving annually. And that is simply to be expected. Minister, these workers are sick listening to the answer no. Let's give them an answer that's yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll sit down with you. Yes, we'll go through the process with the Workplace Relations Commission. Yes, we'll take responsibility and treat you fairly and with respect.
And we have now